Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. My goodness, when we had talked about content for this month's meeting, we thought, you know what, it's been a bit for everyone. So let's talk about leading effectively in uncertain times without burning out, because that's definitely, I think a lot of people have felt it, especially women. And my goodness, if you live in BC or the Okanagan or Merritt, wow, it's been a bit of a crazy week and it's only Wednesday. So so I'm pretty excited to facilitate this discussion, definitely timely. Tonight, what we're going to be doing is discussing through an interactive and engaging process, we will better understand burnout and how to prevent it and how to heal from it. We're going to learn about 3 keys in Pam's book, Learning to Dance with Life, a guide for high achieving women, and how we can support women leaders during these times of turbulent change. We're going to explore the Art of Change framework that Pam's developed and how to apply it in your personal and professional life to successfully navigate change. And we're also going to learn some practical tools that you can use to support your health and well-being at home and at work. So really excited for this session tonight. So as mentioned, this evening is brought to you by the Female Wave of Change Canada, and we're part of a global social movement, Female Wave of Change, that now has ambassadors in almost 50 countries. So my name is Michelle, as Pam has introduced, and I am honored to be the treasurer of the recently incorporated national nonprofit, Female Wave of Change Canada. And just a little bit about us. Yes. We believe in valuing and integrating authentic female qualities in our families, our communities, workplaces, and workplaces that holds the key to creating a better world, a more conscious, equitable, just, sustainable, and peaceful one. And so if you're wondering what we mean by authentic female leadership qualities, in traditional Chinese medicine, there's a belief that we all hold female or yin and male yang energies. And so it's the female energies that include things like compassion, creativity, collaboration, emotional intelligence, intuition, authenticity, and a catalyst for change. And these qualities generally are associated with women. Women tend to have a higher percentage of that energy in their bodies, but we're all made up of a composition of yin and yang. So both men and women can embody and learn to tap into these qualities. So Female Wave of Change aims to increase the number of authentic female leaders and create a better world through leadership development programs, events like this, and projects in our 5 areas of economy, education, environment, health, and humanity. So with that, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you our featured guest this evening. She's the president of Female Wave of Change Canada, our ambassador for Canada, and from a young, Pamela Thompson, sorry. And from a young age, Pam has been fascinated by different people, countries, and cultures, and has dreamt of traveling extensively and, more importantly, being of service. Pamela has lived her life as a university professor, a professional facilitator, a project manager, a consultant in North America, Latin America, Europe, Asia, Africa. She's been all over the place. She's been a consultant to ministers and government departments, non-government organizations, leaders and their teams. She's co-chaired national strategies and facilitated the creation of new initiatives and projects and strategic plans, and co-designed and managed large international development projects. She's also gleaned a number of valuable leadership lessons from more than 25 years of consulting and managing a variety of cultures, including conflict zones. So if there's someone who understands complexity, burnout, and leadership, it's Pam. In her current business, creative life coaching and consulting, Pam supports heart-centered leaders to lead through uncertainty through participatory workshops and keynotes, and to co-create new initiative projects and partnerships. And I'm very grateful to say that Pam was my coach many years ago and has a profound impact on my life. So not only that, Pam is the author of a #1 best-selling book, Learning to Dance with Life, a guide for high-achieving women, based on her journey, in-depth interviews, and the work that she's done with her clients. So Pam, thank you. Thank you for being in the hot seat and allowing me to facilitate this discussion. I'm really excited about this. Why do you think the topic, how to lead effectively in uncertain times without burning out, is so important for women leaders today?
Well, first of all, thank you for your gracious introduction, Michelle. And I'm so happy that you, when I invited you, that you said yes to being on the board. So first of all, yeah, well, COVID has placed an incredible amount of stress on women, as we all know, and women are burning out faster than they were before the pandemic. And a recent report called Women in the Workplace that was based on research done by leanin.org and McKinsey and Company in the States found that the important work of supporting employees' health and emotional and well-being is being done disproportionately by women leaders who are not being recognized or rewarded for it. Compared to men in similar roles, women leaders are more likely to be exhausted and chronically stressed at work. Women are leaving their, and it's interesting, the data I'm not going to cite all the data here, but they did a lot of work and also identified that, and we know that women are not only in the States, but in other parts of the world, leaving corporate work in droves because they want work that has meaning. Some of them are downshifting and they're going from full-time to part-time work because they realize having kids and trying to do it all is just not working for them. They're wanting more connection. They're wanting more meaning. They want to be rewarded and recognized for what they do. And they want to work in a safe environment that's not competitive, but is more collaborative. So the other thing that's happening is because of this, women are not stepping up. And for example, in politics, I don't know, someone needs to unmute themselves. There seems to be a bit of background noise there. They're not stepping up in politics into political positions. They're not stepping up to higher leadership positions. And so this is huge. This is having an incredible impact because we need women in leadership positions. The other thing that's happening is we've noted through the pandemic that women political leaders around the world, such as Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, have really been much more effective than their male counterparts in many countries in stopping COVID in its tracks and really more effectively managing than men. And what we're finding too is there's more and more research on the importance of values that Michelle cited some at the beginning: collaboration, connection, creativity, intuition, a lot of values that are typically associated with the feminine. However, men can have them too and learn them. They're really important to create healthy workplaces, to help people feel that they belong and to be safe. So there's a whole lot of reasons why this topic is of particular importance today, Michelle.
Right. And so it sounds like when really the world needs that feminine approach to leadership the most, women are starting to tap out and say it's too much. And so I understand that you experienced burnout in 2012. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience for you?
Yes, Michelle, I'd be pleased to do that. And it's interesting because a number of years ago, I wouldn't have admitted that I burnt out. However, in time, I feel it's really important to stand up and share the journey so that other people feel that they can too, basically. And so in December 2012, I was working for a nonprofit that promotes women's and children's rights around the world. And I was feeling so tired. Scrolling back, about a year before, in November, I was contacted by the VP of this organization, and she shared with me that they had a position for a senior health advisor on 5 projects in Asia and Africa to reduce infant and maternal mortality. And when she shared it with me, I thought, whoa, I felt so aligned with their mission, vision, and values. And I thought this would be a great thing to do. That said, I just come out of 13 months living and working in Afghanistan, and I was really tired to start. However, I threw my hat in the ring, and in January, I was on 2012, I was off to Ghana for 2 weeks of project startup. Then I was off to Mali for another 2 weeks, meeting the teams on the ground and having a great time, and really also learning what their needs were and figuring out what can we do next. And at the same time, learning about their countries and cultures, because a number of these countries I had not worked in before. So anyway, time went on, and from the original passion and excitement I had, about 6 months in, I started to feel really tired and I started to lose my passion, but I soldiered on. So at the end of the year, nearing the end of my contract, I was offered to extend it in a reduced role. And what had happened is, early on, I was identified to be part of a multi-stakeholder working group of 4 nonprofits that had received funding from CEDA, $1 million, to evaluate the impact of our projects in Asia and Africa. And so it was huge. And within a month, I was told I wasn't a member, I was chairing that committee. And so building a new partnership, identifying and putting out a call for research proposals to hire an organization. It was a huge, that role in itself was a full-time job. And whenever I said no, they would say there's no one else to do it. So anyway, just before I was going to sign this contract that would extend me for 6 more months, only doing part of the work, only facilitating this multi-stakeholder partnership, I asked to sleep on the decision. And I awoke and I felt just like a lemon that had been squeezed dry. And I knew in that moment that I finally had to listen to my body. I finally had to take some time off. So I got back to the VP and director I'd been working with and said, thank you very much for the opportunity, but I am going to turn it down. And they were shocked. They said, Pam, you know us, this is easy. It's only a couple of days a week. And I said, yes. And they said, why? And I said, because I want to create more balance in my life in 2013. At that time, I had no idea what that meant, what that was going to look like. But I started 2013 with no work on my plate. A scary place to be if you have your own business as a consultant, a coach, or whatever. However, I realized it was really important for me to reconnect with friends and family who I hadn't spent much time with in the last couple of years. I also needed to sleep. I slept 10, 12, 13 hours a night, and I still awoke and was feeling tired. So I decided to study mindfulness. I'd heard about meditation and mindfulness for a long time, and I thought, okay, this is the time. So I took a course with Jack Kornfield out of Spirit Rock in the States, and it was amazing. Learned a lot about mindfulness and started to meditate regularly. And still, after about 4 months, I was tired still. And I didn't feel like myself. So I went to a naturopath who put me on homeopathic meds. And within a month or so, I started finally to feel more like myself. Then I listened to this. I was thinking about writing a book for a while. So I listened to this transformational author experience online put on by this woman, Christine Closer. And she, over a 10-day period, she had all these webinars on, interviewing literary agents, authors of different genres, traditional publishers and non-traditional publishers. Anyway, at the end of it, I thought, okay, I want to write a book. And it was like all these pieces of my life came together, and I got the ideas of where to move forward. And within a short space of time, there's 7 keys to what I call creative living in my book. 7 keys to consciously cultivating improved health, happiness, fulfillment, inner peace in your life came to me, and started to write the book, and then decided to target high achieving women who do more than be and give more than receive. And through that program, I also was doing a group coaching program for high achieving women. So throughout the book, there's woven a lot of the coaching exercises and questions that we used in that program, just for your interest. And as they say, the rest is history. So it had an incredible impact on my life, and I totally lived the 7 keys in my book.
Wow, that's incredible that you were able to take such a challenge, and it must have been, like you said, very frightening to make that decision to say no and walk away and set those boundaries and put your health first, right? I mean, it does take a lot of courage to do that, because we do tend as women to, as you say, soldier on. And what came out of that space was a beautiful book and a framework to help others. So that's an incredible story. So based on your own experience and work with high achieving women, can you tell us a little bit about some strategies that people use to heal from burnout or prevent it?
Sure, I'd be pleased to, Michelle. The big thing for me that I learned is the importance of integrating mindfulness practices into your life. So things like body scanning, some of you may have experienced that. And for me, I do it before I get out of bed in the morning. And it's like when you close your eyes, and the idea is to help you get out of your body, out of your head and into your body. And so you can really focus and get out of the chatter in your head. So rather than getting up and hitting the ground running, instead you can lie there and scan your body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And if you notice any tension or pain anywhere, you breathe into it and release it and let it go. That's one mindfulness practice. Another that many of you may have heard of it is mindfulness walking meditation. And that's when you ideally go out in nature and you experience all your senses to the fullest. So instead of thinking about that argument you had with your child or your partner in the morning, or the difficult conversation you're planning on having with a team member, you instead go out and you walk and you feel all your senses, the wind against your cheeks, the smelling the salty air, you hear the crunch of the leaves underfoot, you see the beautiful vistas that surround you. So you really get into your body and into your senses. And when words come up, when thoughts come up, chatter comes up, as it will do, a helpful thing to do is imagine that you put those words or those thoughts in a box or in a balloon or in a cloud and let them float away, and just get on with your business, so to speak, of walking mindfully. So there's many others in yoga as well. I know there are members here. Deborah is a big yogi, I know, and I've done yoga probably since the early 90s. And to me, there's all sorts of different types you can find, and find a style that works for you if you want to dip your toe in the yoga pool, so to speak. Another really practical tool to use is when you're feeling stressed. I invite you to try this with me, everybody. I invite you to close your eyes and to take 3 deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And when you exhale, I invite you to breathe out and make a noise. So if you want to do this together with me, breathe in, deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Ah. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Ah. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Ah. Now, does anybody want to put their hand up and let me know, do you feel any different? Does anybody feel any different since you did that? Somebody want to put their hand up? Marie, how
more grounded.
You feel more grounded? Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Let's see. Carolyn.
I just, it just gets me back in with my body, exactly what you said. And I just feel like I just dropped in.
Great, thank you, thank you. That's probably, I feel like I need to get going on here, but thank you very much for sharing. That's great. The one thing too that it sometimes does for me is it helps me feel really relaxed. So I feel more peaceful in my body. So I can also use that before I go on stage, before I go into a meeting, before I go to an event, to just really ground me and just really, what it does is it releases oxytocin in your body. So it totally relaxes your body. That's what it's doing, right? The other thing is to set firm boundaries. A lot of us who do a lot of stuff have trouble setting firm boundaries. Anybody relate to this, right? And yeah, because we feel like we're going to let somebody down if we say no, but if we don't set firm boundaries, it's not a good thing, because that's when we get overloaded and overwhelmed. The other thing is to spend regular time in nature. For me, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't go out in nature every day. Anybody else notice that too? Put their hand up if you feel that nature and being in nature is really important for you. Yeah, it's huge. And many of you probably have heard, because Japanese bathing is so huge now, that the Japanese have done longitudinal studies to show that when we walk, particularly amongst trees, that it reduces our heart rate, reduces our blood pressure, and increases the number of natural killer cells our body produces. So it strengthens our immune systems. So it's huge. So even if you only have 20 minutes at lunch, if you can't get out there, because a walk in nature, whatever it is, just a few trees down the way, if you can do a park or by the ocean, it's even better, but it's huge. It's incredibly impactful on your body. It's very cleansing and grounding. Another thing that we don't tend to do, or I didn't used to do, is celebrate our accomplishments, both big and small. I used to, have my big list of things to do, and I check them off. That was sort of my gratefulness. I check them off, but I never took any time to sort of deep breathe and say, good on me, I did it, or I didn't take to celebrate with the time to celebrate, and that's really big. And we know now that experiencing joy in our bodies is so important. So if, I encourage you all to celebrate your things big and small. And we have something at the end, we'll tell you about a celebration we're having in December at our next monthly meeting. The other thing is to unplug from technology for 60 to 90 minutes before you go to sleep at night. And the National Institutes of Health in the States have done some research to show that if we do not unplug, there's a part of our brain that still stays awake. And it still stays awake. And you may have noticed if you're on your computer till late at night, or some sort of digital device, that you have trouble going to sleep. And it's because a part of your brain is still lit up. So unplugging for 60 to 90 minutes before you go to bed is really helpful. And also what I find really also helpful to get out of this doing state that many of us are in is to unplug for 24 hours at least on the weekend. So choose a day. I tend to choose Saturday. And yes, you have to have your phone on, but I mean, don't check your email. Just like totally disconnect if you can, because it's just really freeing. And then, if you need to work Sunday, fine. If you don't, that's great too, but some of us need to. And obviously, certain times you've got deadlines and you have to work the weekends. But really, if you can take at least one day off on the weekend, it's really helpful to ground yourself and help prevent burnout. The other thing is to each week block off on your calendar things to do for yourself. So you can do this the Friday before the next week or the Sunday. Put in those walks you're going to do, the yoga you're going to do, the meditation you're going to do, the friends you're going to meet for lunch or coffee, whatever, all those things that you want to do for yourself. Because if you don't, the work will always take over. And when you put them in, commit to doing them. It's really huge, and that's really important. So yeah, I feel like we have time maybe to add one more to this list. So we're just going to put it out there. Does somebody else have a strategy that's really worked for them to help prevent and or heal from this exhaustion and burnout feeling? Anybody?
Me.
Donna.
Get creative. I don't care whether it's sewing, painting, writing, singing, listening to the Beatles. I don't care what it is, dance, stretch, something creative that gets you out of that ego, mind, busy, chop wood, carry water mentality. It puts you in a whole different sphere. It raises, it drops those and adrenaline and the good hormones hit your body. And even just, I find when I'm stretched to the max and I can't do anything else and I'm not feeling creative, I just take my pot of colored pens that's always on my desk and a blank sheet of paper, and I just free write, and I randomly pick colors of pens that resonate. And I can take that and I can see a snapshot of exactly chakra wise, energy wise, where my energy has gone and where it hasn't gone. And where it hasn't gone is what I have to look at. And
Thank
it's
you.
usually self-care.
Thank you, Donna. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Do you know what one of my keys is in my book? It's called Tap Into and Express Your Creative Side. So there you go. You didn't know that, I don't think. Min, do you want to share a strategy that you found really helpful?
Thanks, Pam. I just want to share that, and it's actually, I think in your book, it's about nutrition and eating healthy. I find that when we're stressed, we tend to go to the fridge and just stress eat. But I'm finding that the reverse is actually really more helpful to be intentional about eating healthy. I think there's, it goes with, the walks in the parks or just communing with nature. I just find that really, it's not easy, but I find it really helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Min. Yeah, eating well. So, Jan Mills, did you have something to share?
Ditto to a lot of what's been said, and I would just throw in a side order of comedy and humor.
Comedy and humor, yes. Okay, Isabel, and then we'll take Deborah, and then we need to move. Isabel, did you have something to share?
Yes. These are all wonderful, and these I practice them all except for the yoga, because I also like to say if yoga doesn't work for you, dancing is another great form to release stress. But what I really wanted to add was that you got to live in purpose. For me, if I am doing something and I have to ask, why am I doing this? It is time to say no and walk away. Everything that I do, I like to put my whole heart into it. And another one that I do, and I just reading, is this concept in Japanese of charwa, and that is in search of harmony. So balance for me, it is, always checking and always searching that everything in my life, in my home, in everything that I do in my calendar is in balance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm wanting to take everyone, but I feel I can only take one more. I think Carolyn had her hand up before the other couple of you. So Carolyn, do you want to share? Carolyn Cooper McQuat?
McEwitt, and I think you said Deborah was going to go. Deborah, do you want to go, or are you okay? I just want to pass the torch. Okay, I'll just say mine quick. It's absolutely mandatory that we have our Lifeline team, our A team, our support team, to just call, that they can love us when we're off the rails or when we're thinking the wrong way, to just have those people set up that love us, that can guide us to get back in the path that Pamela is talking about. So support, number one.
Thanks, Carolyn. So Deborah, did you want to say just one quick one?
I'll do something quickly. Okay, so Donna mentioned something about chakras. Now, chakras have an emotional, physical, spiritual aspect to it, and this is really brief. So what I like to do is in my chair or on my mat is move the spine, because everything is connected in the spine and up, and then just move it. And you'll find that just being in your body is like, I call it the chakra scrub, because you kind of balance it out and you move the breath really nice and slow through your nose, in through your nose and out through your nose. And you'll find that you kind of take the tension and the stress out, and you're stretching your muscles, and whatever it is, you just move through your whole body mindfully. And that it's like it just gives you a whole new energy. Yeah.
Well, thank
That's
you.
brief.
Thank you, everyone. That's wonderful. All this wisdom in the room here. Thanks so much.
I love it. I love it. And so it's interesting. We've got a lot of examples of things that, are physical as well as affect our the way that we eat, and we look after our physical body, or exercise, or mentally clear things, our energies. Pam, I understand that the World Health Organization in 2019 revised its classification of burnout from a medical condition to an occupational phenomenon. So how do they define burnout, and why was this change really important?
Well, that, to me, this is really an important, a significant happening. And they define burnout as, I quote, a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It's characterized by 3 dimensions: feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, and reduced professional efficacy, so reduced productivity, for example. And why I feel this is really important is because it acknowledges that leaders and their organizations have a role to play in reducing workplace stress and creating healthy environments for their folks, right? And rather than burnout being perceived as something that we don't talk about, something that is a sign of weakness or purely a medical issue that happens to some folks out of the blue, or because they have some sort of weakness going on, this is huge, that it's recognized that that really organizations and their leaders have a role to play in reducing this stress, and also obviously creating it. So that for me is really, really quite big.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's really interesting that their definition is not is talking about how stress is not being managed. So because we all feel stress, right? But it's how do we manage that? And so based on your journey and your work with your clients in a variety of backgrounds, including conflict zones like Afghanistan, what have you discovered are effective ways to navigate in that stress in times of uncertainty? Okay,
well, that's a big question, right? And I'm going to get the tip of the iceberg here, but I'll start. So first of all, I'd just like to acknowledge that all of us, everyone deals with uncertainty differently. I'm a member of a women's circle, and it was really interesting when the pandemic hit and how certain people were like totally knocked out by it, right? And others were totally got into their creative space, right? I mean, people really responded differently to it. And another thing is that I believe that it's really important to have a positive mindset around change. So if we resist change, it has negative impacts on our bodies, our minds, our relationships, our businesses, and our bottom lines. But if we learn to embrace it and we have more of a positive belief around it, such as I believe that embracing change is a creative process that opens us up to new possibilities rather than changes to be feared, it makes a big difference on how you can navigate it and how you deal with it. Now, I will acknowledge that we're really hardwired to fear change, right? We've got this amygdala, part of our brain, that's constantly searching the environment, checking it out for anything that's different, anything that makes us uncomfortable, anything it perceives as a threat. And as soon as it does, it then causes our body to release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline that course through our bodies and put us into fight, flight, or freeze, right? And when we're in any of those situations, we don't make good decisions. We're not really nice people to be around either, right? So if we can then know that, and then when it happens, have a process that we can use to help us go through it, and also a process we can use with our teams as well. So I actually developed a model, Michelle, a few years ago that builds on the work that I'd done in my book, and it's called the Art of Change Framework. And it's a 5-step framework that works for both managing personal change, but also professional change. And it's based on the metaphor, life is a dance, and it's underpinned by the belief that embracing change is a creative process that opens us up to new possibilities. So it kind of like turns change and how we think about it on its head. And these 5 steps are, based on this metaphor, are shine the light, choose your dance, feel the rhythm and learn the steps, practice, 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 and consciously share your dance with the world. So what I'd like to do is briefly walk people through this, and I invite you to play along with me, excuse me. So step 1, shine the light. That's all about identifying how you respond to change. So I invite you to rate yourself, and this is totally for you. You're not going to share this. I invite you to rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10 in terms of how you typically respond to change. 1 being scares me to death, 10 being I thrive on it. So just take a minute, just off the top of your head, how do you typically respond to change? 1, it scares me to death, 10 being I thrive on it, someplace along that continuum. You don't have to share, but thank you, Donna. Share your vulnerability there. Anyway, now a similar related question. When a change comes at you out of the blue, such as the pandemic that all of us are in and still in, how do you typically respond to those sort of changes? Those changes that are imposed, that you don't feel you have any control over. Again, on the scale of 1 to 10, 1 being scares me to death, 10 being I thrive on it. Interesting. Deborah, did you have something you wanted to share, or is that an old hand? It's an old hand. Okay, it didn't come down. No worries.
Oldie but goodie.
Oldie but goodie, yes. There's a few of us who are oldies but goodies, yes. Anyway, thank you everybody for, thanks Jan, we understand. Thanks for your presence and being part of us when you could.
Hey Pam,
Yes.
I have a question.
Go, Charlie.
Well, once again, talking about change, because it's interesting. I had the conversation again this morning since the pandemic started, and the 2 leadership conferences here that were hosted in 2013, 2014. I know one title was Embracing Change, and I'm going, you know what, that title right now really irritates me, because since the pandemic, there's too much going on, and to the part where I am talking to so many in the community and people who are in leaderships, proprietors, business owners, you're at capacity. And so another change, another challenge, it's like you're at the breaking point now of capacity and change. So when like the whole title about burnout, it's like some of the stuff is in your control, but right now so much of it is outside of your control. And going on, you know, over 20 months of this, and yes, when the supply, it's not only supply chain, it's staffing. So, you know, a lot of this stuff is impacting where you have to, that's fine, certainly can make a decision, but a lot of the ingredients to that decision, when it used to be pre-pandemic, was, I don't know, pretty basic. Change is good, this is fun, this is a challenge. 20 months into this, it's like, oh my God, like, please stop. Like, I'm not one of those people who enjoy this. Like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
That's why I'm drinking at work. You know?
Yes. So what I totally get where you're coming from, and I totally understand that being with clients and other women, it's an issue. And, you know, I'm not saying I have all the answers. However, what I know to be true is that the more we know and understand about ourselves and how we respond to change, and if we have some tools to use to try to move through it, the better we're off. So I'm just trying to, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, but so if you bear with me for a few more minutes, I'll just share with you a little bit more here. But thank you, I appreciate that. So the next one is choose your dance, okay? And I draw heavily on the work of William Bridges. Some of you may know him. He's an organizational theorist, and based on over 30 years of working with people in organizations, he identified that we he basically initially talked about there's a difference between a change and a transition. And he said that a change is something external and situational to us, like a pink slip that we get when we're let go of a job, or a separation agreement when we separate from a partner. Whereas a transition is something that's internal and psychological. So it's the internal psychological work that we do to reorient and readjust ourselves to the new external reality. And what happens is many of us don't do that transition work. We do the external stuff, we leave, done the job, done the relationship, and we move on, right? And so the other thing that Bridges says is that he says, regardless of the transition that we go through, whether it's a relationship, a job change, whatever it is, a change in our health, that there's 3 particular phases, and each phase has work associated with it. And if we don't do the work, we often keep repeating the same patterns in our life and repeating unhappy and unfulfilled. So I'll just quickly walk you through them. The ending is obviously the end of a relationship, for example, or the end of a job, you get let go. The next one is the neutral zone, and the third one is the new beginning. Now, the work associated with the ending is letting go. So if it's a relationship, you're letting go of your status as a couple. You're letting go of anger because you may be really angry and maybe you can't let it go right at the moment, but you got to let it go so you can move on. Letting go of your financial stability. Maybe you had more security when you're a couple than when you're by yourself. So identifying those things and then letting them go. And I've added to his framework, identifying lessons learned. What did you learn from that job? What did you learn from that relationship? So that when you move forward, you won't choose the same kind of partner, the same kind of work that you did in the past, right? Somebody who doesn't communicate, that doesn't work for me. I want somebody who can communicate moving forward, for example, right? And this is really, really big, and it's really important. And this neutral zone is the creative space, but it's also the scary space because you don't know what your future is going to look like, right? So what happens, this is a period of indecisiveness. So it's like taking the leap, but you don't know where you're in the air, but you haven't got to the ground yet, right? So you're like thinking, okay, what am I going to do next? And sometimes if you're in a relationship, you end up going back. Like before I married my first husband, we broke up and got back together 5 times. Well, maybe there was a reason for that, but I wasn't really listening, right? Anyway, that's water under the bridge there. He's a very nice man and all, but I really didn't know at that time to listen to my body and its wisdom. So anyway, all these things to say that time, this neutral zone is a time to envision that new life of your dreams, envision that new relationship, envision that new job of your dreams. And then the next stage is that you take action toward what you've envisioned in that middle stage, right? And so that neutral zone. So it's really helpful for you to work through personally a transition that you're currently in and use this. And yeah, it's really helpful from a personal, and it's also helpful professionally. So in my model, you choose your dance, and what you do is you identify the transition you want to work on and what phase you're on in what I call the transition journey. So in Bridges' model, it's where you are. Are you in the ending, the neutral zone, or the new beginning? The third step is feel the rhythm and learn the steps. And that's where you really commit to embracing change in your body. It's important that you feel it and you understand it. And you also begin doing the work associated with that phase that you're on. And then practice. That's where you actually do the work that associated with those phases, like letting go, identifying lessons learned, envisioning the new future, taking action, whatever. And you also, at that time, you view change as a creative process that opens you up to new possibilities. And step 5, when you consciously share your dance with the world, you look at yourself and how much you've changed and the positive impact of that change because you see the silver lining in it. You also then reflect on the positive impact you've had on your family, your community, and the other groups and workplaces that you're in. So it's a helpful model. And I'm wondering, our time is kind of tight. So I feel like, Michelle, I'll let you take the helm and let us move forward.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So thanks for that, Pam. I mean, gosh, there's there's a lot of stuff to unpack. I think most importantly is that final step where we take a moment to acknowledge our journey and how far we've come. Right? That sounds like an absolute, like all steps are important, but even just as far as how it relates to burnout and appreciating yourself, that sounds like a really, really important step. So you've shared how we can use the Art of Change framework to deal with change personally. But do you have anything to add on how we can apply that to professionally with teams in different organizations?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do, Michelle. It's really helpful, obviously, at the beginning of a change, but often change isn't planned. But ideally, to do this work at the beginning of a change, you can even, starting with identifying with your team as a team lead, or if you're working in an organization, saying, how do you typically relate to change, and doing that exercise? This change typically, and if it comes out of the blue, and have people then share. What I found is often leaders are high up in terms of how they typically respond to change, 8, 9, or 10. But when it's imposed on them, not so much sometimes, because a lot of times as leaders, often we initiate changes. And like I reflect on my life, and I've initiated tons of changes. I've lived all over the world, I've done many things, but when I reflect, there's very few things that were actually imposed on me. And when they are, my response is quite different. So my rating really goes down the scale. So if you do this with a team of people or a group of folks that are close to you, it's really helpful. And it's not about if you're 8 or 9, you're better than someone who's 4 or 5. It just is. And it's about increasing people's awareness so that then you can support them. Like Carolyn was talking before about having your A team, the people there to support you. Well, if you're in a workplace or if you're part of another group and there's people that are stressing out, this is an opportunity to have what Brené says is rumble. Brené Brown talks about rumbling, is rumble about the process and share where you sit. And then you can ask the people on your team or in your group, how can we support you as we move forward? Let us know when you're really stressed out, so that rather than you doing this all on your own, we can support you. So rather than dragging people kicking and straining through a change process in an organization, no, you acknowledge change and that it's scary for a lot of people, and you say, we want to support you, and how can we do that, right? And not make it a bad thing if people aren't really all excited about it, because a lot of people aren't, right? So that's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is when you're actually going through a change, you can use the process, because you can think about, you can anticipate at the beginning, okay, we're restructuring our division, just say, to make it a bit smaller. Okay, you get together with your team and you say, what's going to change? What do we need to let go of? What are some things? What are we, based on what we know of our current model moving forward? What do we not want? What lessons have we learned that we can use to move forward to make it better? And what do we want our place to look like, right? But the point is the ownership for it, and then people have to be willing to listen and be open to this. But it's very powerful when you do this kind of work and you involve people, because at the end of the day, they're part of it and they own it rather than it being forced down their throats, right? So those are my 2 cents for the moment.
Yeah, those are excellent practical tips, because really when I think about feminine leadership and feminine qualities, it's really the creating space, making a safe place for people to be authentic, and then also, just as you said, inclusiveness, right? And having compassion for where they're at. So
true,
that's,
Michelle. So true.
Yeah, those are great practical tips to kind of put those qualities into action. So out of the 7 keys in your book, which one do you believe are particularly important for female leaders today, and of course, why?
Okay, that's a tough one, because the 7 keys are all important and they're like a system that works together. That said, if I have to choose 3, I choose listen to and trust in your body's wisdom. And, I've shared a number of mindfulness practices related to that already. because what I know to be true is that the decisions I've made from totally following my rational left brain have not always been the right ones for me. The pros and cons list, but the ones that I've made by following and listening to my heart and gut have always been the right ones. So listen to and trust in your body's wisdom is really up there. Another one is learn from and embrace life transitions, which I shared the model that I took further on in the Art of Change framework. And finally, create right and left brain body balance. And I think everybody knows the right brain is the more creative, intuitive, big picture thinking part of our brain. The left brain is logic, rational, all those other good bits, structure. And creating right and left brain body balance. I actually really like, there's a guy called Austin Vickers, and I don't have his book at the tip of my tongue right here, but he likens balance to a three-legged stool. And he talks about there's three legs, mind, body, spirit. And if any of the legs are out of balance, it falls over, right? So it's important to nurture our mind, our body, and our spirit in order to be in balance. And we've talked a lot about that. And the other thing that I find that we can draw from and learn so much from is traditional cultures such as the Chinese that you mentioned up front, Michelle, and also the Indian cultures like Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine. They've been all about balance and known about balance for thousands of years. And in fact, they believe in something called the hot and cold theory of health and illness. So they've actually categorized hot illnesses and cold illnesses. If you have a heat illness, you eat cooling foods to bring your body in balance. If you have a cool one, you eat hot ones, right? And so I feel there's much we can learn from those and indigenous cultures about balance. And yeah, so those are the three. Listen to and trust in your body's wisdom. Learn from and embrace life transitions, and create right and left brain body balance.
Yeah, that is all good stuff. And I know definitely tapping into your inner wisdom. Sometimes it's for people who want to just get stuff done, which I think we're all part of that crew. Sometimes you just want to blast ahead, and it takes a little bit of moment to stop and listen to where you're feeling things in your body. And that can guide you. That can guide you because your body knows before your mind and your heart does, actually, generally speaking. So totally. I love that one.
Yeah, and it's so liberating when you learn to trust your gut and your heart, because then you don't deliberate over a decision for 3 days, 7 weeks, whatever it is. You just know, boom, this is it.
Yeah. Clarity is such a beautiful thing, right?
It is.
It's freeing and it's beautiful. So thank you for that. And I'm thinking that at this point we probably want to take a couple of minutes to do a breakout session. And we'll have let's see here. We have 20 minutes scheduled for this. So we will have 3 people per group. And in the breakout session, each person will have 3 minutes to briefly introduce themselves and answer the following questions. I'll put them in the chat in a minute. What new ideas or understandings did you gain from this evening from Pam? And what do you see applying what you've learned today in your work, or how do you see applying what you've learned today in your work and in your life? So I think Barb's going to set up the breakout sessions, and usually we determine who starts first with, this time we're going to go the person with the shortest hair. It's so wonderful with a group of women. You couldn't do this with men. So this is great that we have this option to decide who gets to speak first. Anyways, I think Barb's going to set everyone up.
Yes, thanks, Michelle. I'll just hit create in a second and you can all join a room, but we'll just be in the rooms, just to be clear, for 10 minutes. So essentially 3 minutes per person to share. and then we'll come back and do a bit of a debrief. Okay, so the room is about 10 minutes, and then the other portion of the 20 will be a sharing session. Okay, so I'm going to hit create and enjoy being in the rooms. Everybody find a room. Okay. Okay, there we go. Hey, Pam, as usual. Hello.
Are we in a
Well, it's 'cause
room? I guess we are, right?
Well, this is actually the main session. We're still in the
Okay.
main session.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is being recorded, just so you know. I can stop it if you, or you can stop it. If you want to stop the recording and then restart, up to you. But this is,
Okay, well, maybe you just want to share because I was the one who was talking.
yeah, exactly. I know this is an interesting, an interesting share. This will be part of the recording. Yeah. Usually with the breakout rooms, the host can also choose to join any of them if they want to. But otherwise you stay as we are in the main session. Anyway, yes. So for me, new ideas and understandings. Oh yeah. I liked in your book, or the Art of Change framework, the one that stood out for me and I wrote it down is choose your dance. You know, we all have to choose our own dance. And to me, what that means is actually, as you said, everyone handles change differently. You know, not everybody, a lot of people fear it, but some people love it or don't fear it, myself included. You know, I like change, including big stuff like moving to other countries and starting entirely new jobs and all of that. But yeah, you have to understand that everybody's experience is different, but it is important to choose your own dance with it. And to me, that's a metaphor for life. That's like choosing your own way to navigate anything. But specifically change. And I liked what you talked about with the different phases of transition, the ending, you know, which is all about letting go, and the neutral zone, you know, getting to a neutral place so you can make more effective decisions. And then, you know, including thinking about the lessons you've learned from that change, and then begin anew. But that place of neutrality, I think is a lot of people kind of skip that step. You know what I mean? They end and then they're like, ah, and then they begin because they're fearful, right? But they choose the next thing from a fearful place rather than giving themselves the space, even a few days. I mean, even better if you can give yourself a few weeks, some time to like, okay, how can I get to the neutral zone? You know, other people call that the void, but that is the space where you, from a more calm place, can envision, okay, what could I do now that's going to be even better or more interesting or whatever, depending on what change you're talking about. So I love that. I love the neutral zone piece and that whole idea of there's actually steps to transitioning through change. And yeah, and I like the when you're talking about the 3 keys at the end, you know, creating right and left brain balance. Because yeah, I think we don't, one of the women brought this up as a tool too. We don't, probably not you and me, I'm not speaking about us in particular, but we don't give ourselves just breaks to be creative, like right brain, like no thinking. Things where, you know, whether it's, as you said, embrace your creative side, and it can be, you know, colorful pans and free drawing and even free stream of conscious writing, but it can be anything. You know, for me, it's like, I'm not kidding. I can like have like a little meditation doing the dishes because I
Yeah.
just have my hands in water and all kinds of things come to me because I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just, you know, friends of mine, it's cooking. They
Yes.
cook because
Yes.
that's just, it kind of, they just drop everything, just kind of, they really kind of, it's a space where you can empty your mind. So yeah, walks in nature, that's all great. But everybody, same thing, just find whatever puts you in a creative space. And it doesn't have to be traditionally creative, like painting, writing, you know, that kind of thing. It can be anything.
Right.
So anyway, I love that. And I like from what something new I learned from what one of the participants brought up was the whole chakra scrub. I like that. Chakra movement. It's maybe a little different version of your body scan. You know?
There you go. There you go.
Feeling, you know, like where do I feel that in my body? Yeah.
That's
So
true.
there we go. So those were we've got about 4 minutes left.
I was just wondering about that. Well, I'm glad you got
Before
a
we
good
call.
answer there. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'll call people back at with 1 minute because it takes 60 seconds to bring people back.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. But anyway, so how about you? I know you delivered the presentation, but did you gain any new insights, even just interacting with people tonight?
Well, yeah, I thought it was great that, well, it was just really interesting, the support piece that Carolyn Cooper McQuarrie.
That was another important one.
Yeah, it was, you know, and I think many of us, like much of my life, I soldier on, you know, I have, you know, I don't. However, the women's circle has taught me to become more vulnerable because these women, I didn't know them and I don't work with them. You know, they're totally from different backgrounds from me. And so that's been really helpful, I think, to help me to express my emotions, right? And share stuff more than I normally would, you know. The other thing is the way that Donna described the creative piece of what she did and how, because she's very aware of auras and colors and how she colors, and then she knew based on how she colored where her energy was and wasn't, right? Some of the stuff that Donna Fairhurst said, I thought that was really interesting. And the Chakra Scrub, that was new to me. And I mean, I wish I'd had more time to get input. There's always that balance between how much do you give and how much, you know, interaction do you have. And the thing is, we started late. So we were already like behind the 8 ball when we started because I was waiting for a certain number of people to come in and then everybody came in, right? So thank you for bringing them on because,
no problem. Yes. So that support person is key, not just the change piece, but the whole burnout piece. Because for me, because I experienced burnout as well when I was a nurse, and it was like, I felt alone, like you said, not that I didn't have loving family, I did,
right,
or friends, but I, like you, I felt I gotta figure this out on my own. I gotta just push through it, right? I gotta, as you would say, soldier on, come on, suck it up, buttercup. You know, that's because that's what we hear, right? And some of us actually kind of take it on and believe it, right? And it's so detrimental to us. You know, it's so disempowering until we realize, and I did have family, but I didn't have the support person, kind of like we say, you know, you have your person, like the one person you can tell anything to, and you know, who loves you good, bad, or ugly, who's seen you at your best and worst. Anyway, I think that is absolutely key. You have that, whoever that person is. For some, it is their partner, but some don't have that, right? Or it's a sister or a friend or I don't know, whomever. But that I think is key. At least one person you can just really be vulnerable with. And it'll get you through everything. Okay, I'm gonna call everybody back.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. Or actually, I'm just gonna close the rooms.
Yeah.
Because I'll just say time to come back. And I'll broadcast that and close the rooms. Yeah, because it takes 60 seconds for everybody to
Right.
come back.
Right.
And on we go.
Mhm.
There we go. And I'll just do about a 5-minute debrief with people, just really quickly, a few things.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. We'll just wait for everybody to return. There we go. The bell, the official bell. Okay.
Where are they all?
I don't know why they're not coming back. Here we are. They're probably using their last few seconds.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Everyone said, I think you called us back too early. We were just getting to the good stuff. I know those breakout rooms go quickly.
Yeah.
Anyway, for those of you who didn't have time to fully complete in the breakout room, we'll just take a few minutes to share any key takeaways or insights you received, and maybe one person can kind of be the spokesperson for the group. We're just trying to be efficient. So would anyone like to share something from their group that was really key or new? Some sort of takeaway? Anybody? Okay, Carolyn, go.
Well, no, Deborah had her hand up. I'm going to give the torch.
No, you go, you go.
Okay, all
Okay,
right.
Oh my God. Okay, so first of all, I thought I'm going to be in Deborah's room. Who lands in my room? Hello. And then I just feel like I know Deborah. It's absolutely extraordinary. We think exactly the same. I just think she's a magnificent woman that's flowing from source. Just loved our connection. She lives in Victoria. My daughter lives there. I'm going there to see her, and that's about it.
Okay, good. All right, Deborah, over to you. After that glowing testimonial, and all of us in Victoria may be coming to see you.
Yeah,
But
well,
what would you like to share, Deborah? What would you like?
Oh, come over.
So what did you get from the breakout session, Deborah? What would you like to share?
The energy was just like, you know what? It's so proof that nature organizes, the universe organizes. I'm sitting there looking at all you beautiful women, and I'm going, okay, I wrote down Carolyn's name. Okay, I've got to connect with Carolyn. And then who comes up? And I said, yay, this is awesome. I want to connect with you. And there it is. So what you ask for, you get. If you're really clear, if you're coming from your heart, and it was obvious, we couldn't shut up.
That's good.
Answer the questions.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much. You have really, Pamela, opened up a box and let out all the goodness that's going to come forth from everybody. Thank you.
And I'm just going to segue on that because actually Pam and I were in our own little breakout room sharing, and something that came up that someone mentioned, I'm sorry, I forget who, but having a person that you can share anything and everything with, that expression, who's your person, that even if it's just one that you can be very vulnerable with, and really even, good times or bad. I mean, sometimes that's your partner, but sometimes it's someone else, right? And I think that in my own experience is huge when we feel like we're burning out or we're depleted in any way. Mm-hmm. Just somebody who can, as I like to say, talk you off the ledge.
It's a lifeline.
Bring you back. Yeah.
It's a lifeline, right?
It is a lifeline. Thank you, Carolyn. It was you who mentioned that.
You have to have your women lifeline set up ahead of time. You don't know when something's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I've got mine on speed dial. Just
good plan.
I don't waste a second in victim. I don't. I say, okay, calling in a lifeline.
Okay, thanks. Would anybody like to
talk to me?
Okay, great. Thanks, Carolyn. Would anybody else like to share from another break breakout room. Okay, Susan, Isaac, go ahead.
Something all three.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, Suze. You froze for a second. Do you want to turn off your video and just speak it? You're frozen.
In terms of looking at women's leadership, like which was part of what Pam said, trust your body wisdom, like do a body scan, do a body check. How are you feeling? But it's that intuition that we talked about as far the feminine doesn't have it isn't just the feminine, but we have embodied that perhaps more often in the past. And as far as the language of leadership, I would love to hear when we're talking to each other to say, well, what is your intuition about that? Rather than what do you think about that? Even use it like, yes, and what do you feel about that? Be like, there's nothing wrong with saying, what do you think? But I actually would like to know how someone feels and what their intuition is before I hear about what they think. And maybe that's just something we can think about as a group to get that in our vernacular, like it, and then make it completely natural. And because I want to hear what people's intuition is.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Thanks for that. You're getting lots of heart responses from other people in the group as well. Yeah, right back at you.
Can I just say something? You know,
sure, Deborah.
What he's doing?
Yes.
This is actually a mudra in yoga. So it's not just like, oh, I remind you to do that. It's like you put it by your heart and it has depth and meaning. It's called Hridaya. It's a heart mudra.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So back to again bringing in that heart energy into our decisions and into everything we are thinking about. Okay. I think thanks everyone for sharing. Again, just in light of time, I think we'll continue. And Pam, is it over to you next about sharing about membership? Okay.
Over to me tonight. Yes. So I'm just going to share my screen in a minute here. There we go. So what the heck? Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So what do we got here? Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Female Wave of Change Canada for you folks who don't know about us. We are an action-oriented organization committed to strengthening feminine leadership and creating a better world. We're part of a global movement that started in January 2017 by a woman called Ingun Bol in the Netherlands, and now we're in almost 50 countries around the world. And so from time to time, we have other ambassadors popping in, like Isabel tonight from Connecticut. We've had the woman from Sweden. We've had Ingun actually come in from the Netherlands in the middle of the night as well. So it's quite exciting when folks join us from different places, as well as a number of very interesting and accomplished women from across Canada. Our core values that are obviously central to who we are authentic feminine leadership, partnership and collaboration, gender equality, embracing diversity, and interconnectedness and stability. Now, why is it not? Now, we are looking for passionate mission-driven women to join us. We've got in the global movement, there are women from all sorts of walks of life, leaders in their families, in their communities, in their workplaces, in their business. So a real cross-section of women from all different backgrounds and cultures. And in terms of Female Wave of Change, I was part of a group that helped write a document called Reshaping the Future, creating change for a better world, or something to that effect. And in that document, we identified 5 pillars. They are economy, education, environment, humanity, and health and wellness. And we actually have 5 pillar groups with expertise at the global level. And my vision for Female Wave of Change Canada is to have pods in those 5 areas and to co-create projects that make a social impact on the ground in these 5 areas. And since June, some of us have been meeting together. I put the call out in June for people who wanted to work on an environment project, didn't have to have subject matter expertise, but needed to have some passion and or interest in the topic. And we've co-created an educational program for girls ages 9 to 12. We're in the process of doing this, but we've sketched out all the broad parameters of the curriculum. It's called Becoming a Mother Earth Ambassador, and it's all about teaching young girls about nature, and also there's a leadership component to it. So we're quite excited about that. So if you join us, you have the opportunity to get involved in one of these projects in one of these areas and help co-create it. You also have the opportunity to be featured as a guest. We like to feature our guests. You get to, in that process, co-create an event. In the future, we're going to have blogs, and we foresee having guest blogs. You can also get involved in other pieces of what we do. The membership fee is annual. We are a national nonprofit, and we don't get any money from the parent organization. So you get the opportunity as a member to participate in this global and diverse community of women. You can lead a project or be part of projects or events in these pod areas. You can enjoy leadership development and or mentoring. There's a Women Leading in Change program globally, and we're looking at how we might take that local as well. You have the ability and opportunity to speak on regional and global stages. We have an international conference every year, and this year a team of us spoke at the international conference, which was virtual this year. You can provide leadership development and mentoring. There's opportunities. We're developing collective wisdom circles starting in the new year and receiving member pricing on events and courses. We're still in startup. Although we incorporated in December 7th of 2020, we really didn't start with anything official till March. So, and then we took the summer off. So we're still in startup. And so if you're interested, you can go to femalewaveofchangecanada.com and sign up. We'd love to have you. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to stop the share. Does anybody have any questions about membership? Anybody?
I do.
Carolyn, yes.
Yeah. So I just had a conversation with a woman down in California just before I got on here, and we were talking about creating something for younger women, right? To just bring the wisdom of what we know for younger people. Is that something that would be of a possibility to, collaborate with other people and show up to serve younger women in this capacity?
Certainly, that's a possibility, right? That's part of humanity. It's part of education. We're all about leadership. So certainly, and that's the thing, is that there's so much wisdom in our group, and we want to bring it together, and we want to make positive impacts. We want to co-create projects that make a difference. So yes, definitely.
Can I ask, do you have a human rights component?
We do. The humanity, thank you, Suri.
Carrie, that's Carrie.
Is
I'm phonetic.
Apologies, I knew that. I've heard that before, but
no worries. I get everything.
Yes, no, there is actually, at the global level, we have every month there's a theme. I've been kind of bad. I've not been following themes. I'm a rebel at heart. But the reality is that there's a theme for December, late November, December, the global team. You can go to femalewaveofchange.com if you want to access the larger group, and you will see there's work on the pillars, but they're doing all sorts of stuff against gender-based violence. And they do stuff on genital mutilation, and they're tying in with the UN. There's some people who are engaged or connected to UN Women. And so, yes. So did you have a comment related to that, or you just were curious?
No, I have a background in it. I was the human rights advisor for the representative for children and youth for 9 years.
Oh, wow. You would have so much to contribute. You would have so much.
Yeah, I've done a bit of the work.
Totally,
But
totally.
it's something I haven't been involved with in a while. And I got into data instead, but it's something that I'm interested in because I see the work stalling here in BC again. I think there's a very important and fine focus on Indigenous, particularly, as well as a variety of other cultural focus. But I think there's a need to bring the whole package together.
Oh, totally there is. Yes. I don't know. Did you join us?
And it's a
last-
bit fragmented right now, and I think we could do better.
Right. Did you join? I can't remember if you joined us last month. We had a really good speaker, Anne-Marie Schrouder out of Toronto.
Good.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah. So there's kind of that
Yep.
D&I piece to it, DE&I piece to it as well, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay, well, thanks. Feel free, anybody, if you have a question, my email is for Female Wave of Change is Pamela at femalewaveofchange.com. So feel free to email me, and then I'll just put in the box here to the URL for the global group, because it gives you a sense of, you know, we're aligned with them. Female.com. So yeah, we welcome you to our group. We're really looking for, you know, all sorts of folks from diverse backgrounds to grow this in Canada and really grow this movement. And as you can see with people like Isabel, there's amazing women, everybody from mining engineers to artificial intelligence experts to people from radio and television to coaches to educators. I mean, incredible broad spectrum of people. And when you become a member locally, you get to connect with those folks through other opportunities globally. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, our time is almost up. And what I'd like to just say is I'd like to thank you all, each and every one of you, for being with us tonight and for participating so actively. And I'd really like to thank Michelle for stepping up to the plate and volunteering to interview me. She did a great job, I would say. And so thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, you made it easy.
Anyway, we typically have our monthly meetings the third Wednesday of every month from 4:30 to 6 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 to 9 p.m. Eastern. We're making an exception in December, being that it's Christmas and other holiday months. And so our next monthly meeting is December the 8th at the same time, 4:30 to 6 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 to 9 p.m. Eastern. And we're quite excited. We're going to have a party. Because we're going to call it Celebrating Endings and New Beginnings, because it is going to celebrate our 1-year anniversary of founding Female Wave of Change Canada as a legal entity. So yes, and in addition to having a party, we're going to share with you processes you can use to end your years and also to begin new ones. So join us if you want to have fun. And it's open to the public as well as members. Obviously, we'd like as many people as possible to become members, but that said, feel free to invite your friends to a party because we plan to have fun. The other thing is
it the same time?
It is the same time, yes, 4:30 to 6 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 to 10. So December the 8th. And just to let you know, one thing, I said that I would offer a signed copy of my book to someone who attended tonight. So what's going to happen is we're going to put all the names of people who have come into a random number generator, and we'll let people know who wins. Okay, so just so you know, one of you will win a signed copy of my book. You don't, but if you want to buy it, that's fine too. It's on Amazon. It's also on my site, because we didn't put that up, I don't think. Pamela-Thompson.com/books. Yeah. So anyway, thanks very much, everyone, and really enjoyed tonight. And thanks again, everyone, for showing up. And best of luck
Thank
with
you
all
so
the amazing work
much.
you're doing in the world.
Thank you, Pam.
And same to
Pamela,
you.
you're awesome.
Thank you,
Thank
Pam.
you.
Have a great
Thank you
week,
for a great
everybody.
event.
Bye now.
Thank you,
Nice seeing
Pam.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.